what we're learning today is we're going to learn the math method to multiply decimals. And the cool thing is it's actually very, very simple because it's just like when we multiplied earlier this year. Now, if you remember, there were rules for adding and subtracting decimals. Does anyone remember what the rule was for adding or subtracting decimals? Everybody in here should know the rule. Trenton, what's the rule? What do you have to do with the decimals when you add or subtract?
The decimals have...
Somebody help them out. Hannah,
Line up the decimals.
you got to line up the decimals, don't you? Okay, before you add, and then you can fill in the zeros. Well, the nice thing with multiplying is you don't. You don't have to worry about where the decimal point is. Okay, so if I look at number 1, this is number 1, I believe, on page 246, down in the bottom corner. Is that the same one you got?
Yeah.
All right, so here we have 6 and 81/100ths times 7. Now, you notice it's not lined up because the decimal point in 7, isn't it right there?
Yeah.
It's right after the 7, so they're not lined up. They don't have to be lined up. So, in fact, it's better for you just to think that that decimal's not even there. You still have to write it, but just pretend that this is 681 times 7. Okay, that's all we're going to do. Okay? So if we do that, and they already did the work for us, 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 8 is 56, carry the 5, 7 times 6 is 42, plus 5 is 47. Now, the only tricky part to multiplying decimals is knowing where to put the decimal in your answer. Adding and subtracting, we just dropped them straight down, but you don't do that with multiplying. Okay? Here's how you do that. We look at the first number up on the board. And we count how many decimal places does the first number have. Well, I count over, it goes over 1. How many spots?
2.
It goes over 2 spots. So you guys draw those little, I call them frog jumps. Draw those little frog jumps on number 1. And right next to it, we're going to circle how many places over the decimal is. Right next door. Okay, that one's been over 2 spots. 7, I don't see a decimal point. So how many spots over is the decimal here? 0. And I circle that one too. Okay, so one more time. The first number, the decimal's over 2 spots. The second number, it's not over at all. There's 0 spots. Now I add those up. What's 2 plus 0? And that's how many spots in your answer that you put your decimal point. Okay, so 2 plus 0 is 2. So that means I'm starting at the end. We're going to do my frog jumps. 1, 2, and I'm going to put my decimal between the 7 and the 6. Okay. Now it also makes sense because if I just looked at the whole numbers here, don't I have a 6 right here times a 7 right here?
Yeah.
6 times 7 is 42. Isn't this close to 42?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I had 476.7, that wouldn't make any sense because 6 times 7 is 42. That's not even close. All right, let's try another one. Number 2. Or not 2, 4.
And we don't have any. Oh. Here.
Don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Or, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Here's what I want you to do, and I'm going to have to just write it down up here. Would you please do number 2 for me? Number 2. Wyatt, would you please read it to me so I can write it up here on number 2?
It's 3 and 7
10.
times
Okay.
and times 2.
Times 2?
Yes,
And what are the numbers down below?
74.
Okay, on your own, see if you can figure out where that decimal would go. If you can't remember, just watch. I'm going to go over it right now. All right, so we just pretend that this is 37 times 2. We ignore the decimal at first and we do our multiplying. Then at the end, once we get our answer, now we count decimal places. So we start at the end with 37. How many spots over is that one?
1.
Okay, 1. I put that off to the side. You guys are doing exactly what I'm doing. How about in 2? How far over is it on the number 2?
0.
Yeah, we don't have any decimal places, so we put a 0 there. And then I just total them up. What's 1 plus 0? 1. So that means in my answer, I'm going to move the decimal over 1 spot. So it should be 7 4/10. How many of you got that? That's all there is to it, guys. Once again, if I look at this, I have 3. Oh, did a very good job of highlighting it. And 2 are my two whole numbers. 2 times 3 is 6. Isn't that close to 7 4/10? Yeah. Okay, try number 3 on your own. Try number 3 on your own. Carter, would you read number 3 for me?
19 and 34 hundredths.
19 and 34 hundredths. Slow down, I have to write with a mouse here. Okay. Times what?
5.
Times 5.
And it's 9,607.
9, 6, 7, 0.
Yeah.
All right, so you should have a decimal in your answer already. How far over is this one? Class?
2.
2. 2 spots over. How far over is this one?
0.
Yeah, it doesn't have a decimal point, so 0. I tally them up. 2 plus 0 is?
2.
So that means in my answer, I'm going to start at the end and go 1, 2 spots. So my answer would be 96 and 7/10 or 70 hundredths. Okay? Pretty easy? All right, in your groups, would you please try number 4 with your clickers? Send in your answers. Go. Lane, try turning it off. Get back on. Turn it off. Okay. If yours didn't come on, don't worry about it. Just have an answer down on your book. All right. So Jamalet, Trenton, Jeff, and Lane were having clicker issues. So you guys have answers though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at what everybody else put. Everybody else put 18 and 96 hundredths. Ready, set, go. All right, great job. Now, for those of you that didn't get that, if your clicker wasn't working, 3 times 2 is 6. Remember, we don't line up decimals, not multiplying. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 6 is 18. Then we count up decimal places. How far over is this one?
2.
2. How about this one?
0.
And that's a grand total of 2. 1, 2. Okay? That's all there is to it.